Okay, so we are in line 14. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It has melted within me. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. And so in this two-line stanza, it gives a vivid depiction or picture of just Jesus just hanging on a cross. Jesus hanging on a cross, and being that he was hanging on a cross by those nails in his hands and his feet, and just like feeling like all his joints have popped out. Now notice that also that they wanted to break Jesus' bones while he was hanging on the cross, but being that Jesus had already died, then his bones were not broken, which is also a fulfillment of prophecy that says not one of his bones were broken. All right, because usually they'll go ahead and break the bones if they have been hanging on a cross too long, and they'll go ahead and break the bones so that they go ahead and asphyxiate and go ahead and die. All right, but Jesus had already died. And then so remember that they pierced his side, and that's when the blood and water flowed. So it says 14, I am poured out like water, and all my bones out of joint. My heart is like wax. It has melted within me. And so it gives a reference scripture to Daniel 5:6. Daniel 5:6 that says, the king's countenance changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his hips were loosened, and his knees knocked against each other. And so that's just an example of what happens when your joints are out of place and stuff like that. So that's why that reference scripture was in there. So it goes on to say that my strength is dried up like a potsherd, and then so that just like fragments of broken pottery. But also it means that if his strength is dried up, that also denotes weakness. So my strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. And so remember when Jesus hung on a cross and he said that he was thirsty. All right, so it gives a reference scripture to Proverbs 17:22 for that one. That says, a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. And so clearly Jesus' spirit was broken. And then John 19:28 is another reference scripture. That says, after this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, said, I thirst. All right. And so, line 16, let's move on to our next stanza. For dogs have surrounded me, the assembly of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They look and stare at me. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. So, it gives a reference scripture to John. Well, actually, John 20:25 and 27 is fulfillment of line 16. For dogs have surrounded me, the assembly of the wicked has enclosed me. And so let's turn there quickly. John 20:25 and 27. It says, the other disciples therefore said to him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see his hands, the print of the nails, see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. And so this is Thomas saying that he won't believe because he wasn't there when Jesus came and appeared before the other disciples. And then so Jesus said in 27, and he said to Thomas, reach your finger here and look at my hands, and reach your hand here and put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing. So it's all about believing. It's all about believing. And so then so it says in 17, I can count all my bones. They look and stare at me. And so John 19:37 says, and again another scripture says, they should look on him whom they pierced. And they did look at Jesus. And then line 18 says, they divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. And so what that is that they gamble for Jesus' clothes. And so that gives a reference scripture to Matthew 27:35-36. Then they crucified him and divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. So, as you can see, a lot of it being referred back to the New Testament about Jesus and his crucifixion and all the pain and suffering that he endured. So we're going to stop right here, and then we'll pick it up in the next segment.